So yeah, so when it comes to cloud computing is basically creating computer systems or resources on someone else's machine, right? Usually, if you want a Windows 10 machine, you go to the store and buy a specific machine that has Windows. If you want a Mac operating systems, right? You go to a store, go to Best Buy, whichever store that your favorite electronic store, and and buy a machine that has Mac operating systems, right? And you bring it to your home, right? If you want to create a server, right? You purchase a server, bring it home, and it will be in your home, right? And when it comes to organization or the enterprise world, I use enterprise world to refer to companies, right? So if I mention enterprise world, I'm talking about companies. So keep that in mind. So yeah, when it comes to enterprise world, remember they have a website, right? The website that they have has to be hosted or has to be on a computer, right? Which usually is a server. So most of the time they have it in the network closet, right? Or a data center that they have. So that is on premises or in-house, right? Now versus cloud. So cloud, if you want a Windows 10 machine, you just go to whichever cloud provider that you want, and then click create a resource, right? And let me type Windows. Let me see what will come up. Press enter. Now it's giving me Windows 11, right? Windows 10, right? So instead of me going to the store and picking up a machine, I can come to a cloud service provider and then select whichever machine that I want and then create it, right? Once I create it, in order for you to access it, you have to be online because the machine is not in your house anymore, right? It's on the internet. It's on someone else's data center, right? Or someone else's room, right? So on premises, it's basically you having your own machine. Cloud is on someone else's system that you really don't care about. The only thing that you care about is you having your machine whenever you need it, right? So yeah, so that is cloud. But yeah, so let me go back to home. So yeah, so we have three main public cloud providers, right? We have the Microsoft Azure, we have the Amazon AWS, and then we have the Google Cloud, right? Those are the three main public cloud providers. But yeah, in this case, I just want to use Microsoft Azure to create a Linux machine, right? And when you start working in the enterprise world, most of the machines or Linux machines that you'll be logging in, most of the time you wouldn't have physical access to it, right? And the only way you can log in is through how we're going to demo here today, right? And that is how you go logging into Linux machines, right? So let me go ahead and click create resources, right? What resources do I want, right? In this case, I want a Linux machine, right? Which distribution should I select? Can someone give me any suggestion on the distribution that I can select? Okay, Ubuntu is good, right? Remember, we have a Red Hat here as well, right? So I can either type it here or just select it. But let's do this. Let's type Linux, right? Enter, and then it gives you all the Linux, Kali Linux right here, right? So you can even be doing your hacking testing or hacking stuff online, right? Or through the cloud. But you have to be a little careful about that. But yeah, but that's what most hackers do. They build they spin up a machine in the cloud, do what they have to do, and then destroy it, right? So yeah, keep that in mind. All right, so yeah, we have Kali Linux. I have Red Hat here. So it's 1 out of 125. So we have at least, let's see if it's 10 a page. No, it's more than 10 a page. If like 10 a page, then probably like 12,000 plus Linux machines, right? But we want Ubuntu, right? So let's select Ubuntu here. They have different builds, right? It's the same thing as Windows, right? You have Windows 7, you have Windows 10, we have this Windows 11. The same thing when it comes to Linux as well. So let me just select the Ubuntu Server 22.0 LTS, which stands for long-term support. So let's select that. Okay. All right. So here, something went wrong. Okay, let me close this for now. All right. So now it says create a virtual machine, right? So instead of physical machine that you have, you are creating a virtual machine. So it's asking me for the resource group. I'm not going to concentrate on the fields that they have that much, but then resource group is basically a way of containing your resources. So if you are a company that have multiple clients, right, you might create a resource group for each client. So anything that you do for this specific client will be on a specific resource group, right? So you can name it the name of your client, right? And then once it comes to, let's say, destroying the resources, right? So let's say you're done with this client and you need space for other clients, you can go to that resource group and then delete that resource group, which means everything that you created on that specific resource group or under that specific client will be deleted, right? So you don't have to go through one by one to see which one was for this and all that, right? So in this case, let me type let's type Linux bootcamp, right? So let's do that. So anything, create one here, Linux bootcamp. So anything that I will be creating pertaining to this bootcamp, I would assign it to this resource group, right? So that is it. What is the name of the virtual machine that I want to create now, right? So let's name it bootcamp Linux, right? The region, right? Those that took the introduction, we talked about region, right? But I'm going to leave it as US East. Availability zone, I'm going to leave it as is. Security type, let me leave it to basic. The image of the operating system is the one that we selected, so we're going to leave that as is. Architecture, leave it as is as well. Run with Azure Spot instance. I'm going to select this. All right. So you see this, you see where it says size? Size is basically the resources that you want, right? So in this case, it says 8 gig of memory, right? 2 CPUs, right? Let me select all size, right? And it tells you what the RAM what size. It gives you the disk type, the CPU, the virtual CPU type as well, right? So the D8S V3, right? That specific model, right, would be 8 CPU and it'll be 32 gig of RAM, right? And the price is $280 per month, right? So when it comes to cloud, cost is one of the things that you have to keep in mind, right? Yeah. So we can select, most of the time we will go for the least costly option, right? Which will be probably this $53 a month, right? But it's divided into hourly, right? So you are billed by the number of hours that you use this machine, right? So if you just want to practice Linux and then you create a virtual machine and you use it for like an hour a day, you're not going to pay $53 a month, right? You probably pay $10 or probably $8, right? Because I believe an hour will be 0.02 or something, right? So yeah, so you can select from this general purpose, or let's go back here. And when we use, where's it? Spot instance, right here. Spot instance basically is saying that we're going to discount the cost for you in exchange of you losing access to your machine if they need it, right? So they will give you a discount to use it, but if someone else is paying and they don't have the resources, they can claim your virtual machine, right, anytime, right? And you lose everything. So this is good for, let's say, if you just want to do a test or something or practice on Linux, you can use a Spot instance, which basically will be cheaper than the regular pricing, right? So yeah, so the price will be, let me see our size. Okay, right here. So initially this specific one was for $53, right? So now it's giving you an hourly cost, right? And it tells you the percentage off, right? So this is 90% off, right? So let's select that one. So yeah, if they need it, they would take it from me. But I don't intend to use this persistently, right? So this will just be for us testing. So I'll select that. And I'm going to select my username and password, right? So this is my username, my password, choose my own password, and then do all right. And I'm going to leave allow selected port SSH port 22, right? So once I create this virtual machine, I can automatically have SSH access to this machine, and that's what I want, right? So let's click next to go to disk. So I remember someone asked that, does company encrypt the disk or something, right? And I was saying that, yeah, once the company gives you the laptop, they will automatically encrypt it. This is the option that it's given us here in the cloud, right? So if you don't, if you deselect this, meaning your hard drive that you are using here is is unencrypted, right? But if you select it, meaning you've encrypted your hard drive. So I think that should be all here. So let's click next to networking, right? So networking, we have subnet, right? So you can create a subnet for your specific machine. You can create a public IP address for your machine, right? But these are all default, so we're not gonna touch it. Let's leave that as is. Right, I think that is it for here. Management. Okay, good. Let's talk about this. Auto shutdown. Let me click here. So remember I mentioned that this is costly platform, right? So you have to manage how you use the systems here, right? So they have option for auto shutdown. Sometimes you create a virtual machine and then you forget that it's even working. I remember back in school, right? We did a project on in the cloud, and it was AWS. I created the AWS account. I did what I have to do, and I forgot to shut it down. And it was the last day of class, so we're doing presentation. So I forgot to shut it down, right? So it was on probably for like a week, right? So they emailed me a bill that basically I have to pay, right? So it can rack up, right? If you don't turn it off, you can pay a lot. So with the auto shutdown, right? It's a way of telling you, giving you option for a system to shut down if you forget to shut it down, right? So I'm going to select 12 a.m., right? Let's do 12 a.m. And then time zone, right? Time zone is Eastern. So, where is Eastern? Does anyone see Eastern? Oh, come on. Does anyone see Eastern? Right here, Eastern. And it says notification before shutdown. So now, before it's going to shut it down, it will notify you, right? So I'll say yes to that to send me an email to confirm that it's turning off or shutting down. Enable backup. You can back up your machine as well, but that is fine. Click on monitoring. So now, if you want to see information or alert pertaining to your machine, right? In case the CPU goes up, in case the memory goes up, right? In case someone is using too much for network bandwidth, right? You can still get notification, right? And you can change it here, right? So CPU, if it's greater than 80%, right? That is when it's going to notify me, but you can change it, right? Whatever you want. So let me do that as well. All right. So save and then advanced. Let's see if there's anything here. Nothing really here. Let's click on tag. Yes, when it comes to tag, I usually like giving it a name tag, right? So name, and I can name it to Linux Bootcamp, right? and this bootcamp. And this is an easy way of what? Searching for resources pertaining to a specific group, right? So it's creating a virtual machine. Let's give it a minute. So yeah, the cost is 0.0096 an hour, which is decent. But I have credit, so it wouldn't charge me. Validation pass is great. I mean, it's still going to charge, but it would take out of the credit that I have. Right. And for those that do not know, if you are a non-profit or not-for-profit organization or NGO, Microsoft gives you credit towards their cloud platform. Right. It used to be $3,200. So you can use any resources up to that amount a year. So every year it keeps renewing. But recently they emailed us stating that they're going to reduce it to like $2,000, which is still a lot. So yeah, so if you have especially churches, right, you can take advantage of that. Right, so it's creating multiple resources, right? It has to create our subnet, it has to create our virtual networks and all that. All right, so it'll take a little while. All right, so it says deployment succeeded. So go to resources, click on that. And now this is how you manage your bootcamp Linux virtual machine, right? You see how the start is grayed out, meaning the machine is already running. If you click stop, it will turn off the machine, right? And just general information resource group, right? This is the name that we gave it. The status is running, right? The machine is running, the computer is running. The region that we selected. All right. Now the public IP address, right? So this is the public IP address. So in order for you to connect to this machine, remember we have SSH enabled, right? So everyone will be connecting to this machine using SSH, right? So in order for you to connect to it, you need to know the public IP, which is this right here, right? So you SSH to this IP and it will give you access if you have the right credential, right, or login. All right, the auto shutdown that we configured is here. Do we need anything here? Activity logs, it tells you what happened on the machine, right? Networking. Right, networking gives you this is the firewall, right? This is host-based firewall. So it's telling you that, hey, SSH port 22, the protocol is TCP, the source and destination allow. Source from any, destination from any allow, right? So it's going to allow us to anybody on the internet to SSH, right? But the question is, do they have the right username and password, right? So this is how we have configured, right? And at the bottom here, it says deny all inbound, right? So any protocol, any port, any protocol, any source address, any destination address will be denied, right? So if you're not if the service is not part of this first three, you'll be denied, right? So this is a firewall rule, right? And this is host based. It's on the host machine. And we have network based firewall, which was the PF sense that we worked on the Linux Plus, right? So yeah, so this is the firewall. We have NIC public IP. That's the public IP address. And we have the NIC private IP, and that is what the private IP address, right? It's 10.1.0.4, and that is the IP address you get when you type ipconfig on your machine. That is your private or local address, right? The public IP address is the address that your internet service provider gives you, right? All right, so connect, right? So now it's giving us the option that we have to connect to this specific machine, right? So either Microsoft Azure or AWS have this option. It tells you how to connect to this specific machine, right? You can use Microsoft Azure CLI, right? Command line. Microsoft Azure has command line. AWS also has a command line, right? So that it boils back to the same thing, right? In order for you to be an effective cloud engineer, you need what? Linux, because their command line is also Linux, right? So you can use the Microsoft Azure CLI, or we can use native SSH, right? Native, when we say native language, right? The language that you speak when you are born, right? So when we say native SSH, basically the SSH platform that comes with the machine that you are using, right? PADI is native to Windows, right? So it's saying that use the native SSH that comes with your machine. You can do that as well, right? So you can use PADI, but I'm using Mac operating systems, which means that I can use my regular command line to SSH. In Windows, you cannot use your regular command line to SSH. You have to use the PADI. So let's do this. Let me bring by my terminal. No, let me change the screen here to Safari one more time. So yeah, so this is the IP address, right? So let me copy the IP address, right? So that's what I'm going to SSH into, right? And let me switch my screen back to here. SSH space the username, right? Username was RSAKOE. That's what I use as my username. The bootcamp is actually the name of the machine, like bootcamp, Linux bootcamp, right? So yeah, so it's SSH space the username at the IP address. So it's SSH space the username at the IP address. That is it, right? So keep that in mind. You'll be SSHing into stuff multiple times, right? So SSH space username at the IP. Press enter. It tells you that, hey, are you sure you want to continue the connection? I'll type yes. And now it's asking me for a password. So I'm now going to type the password that I created, right? When I was setting it up. So and there you go. So you see here, Bootcamp Linux, right? Let me type who am I, right? It says RSAKOE, right? So I was on my regular Mac operating system command line, and now I pivot or SSH into a different machine here, which is Bootcamp Linux right here.